This week on the Austin Healey channel. Taking the backing plate off to try to determine where the oil leak was coming from. Remember, the bell housing was full of gunk. I was seeing some oil through here, I'm thinking that the gasket that goes around this part had failed, and it was leaking and coming into there instead of this part here. So over here you can see the gasket. There's considerable oil here, even more at the bottom still. So I'm still thinking that is the cause, but we're gonna clean up the backing plate and keep looking into it. First is to scrape this gasket off. This was kind of a hard piece to find. This is the bracket that goes on the rear axle that holds the pan hard rod. The pan hard rod goes through here. It's specific for BN1, and they don't seem to make it anywhere. So I bought this one off eBay. It appears to be in really good shape. It had to pay more for shipping than for the part, but it came all the way from Kansas City to Luxembourg. So I can finally finish putting the pan hard rod together. And because it was so hard to find, and because it's really kind of a simple piece, I've gone and made a pattern. So if I ever need another one, I just make it myself. I have a lot of projects that are ongoing that I can't complete until more parts come. So I thought it'd be a good time to clean up the carburetors. Basically what we're gonna do is take everything apart, clean it up. Lots of the stuff gets color on it. The back plate of the air cleaners gets engine color. What else? I believe these two brackets get engine color. Lots of other stuff gets cleaned up, just cleaned up, and maybe polished a bit. Some of this other stuff might get nickel plated. First, what we need to do is kind of gently take it apart and see what condition things are in, and start from there. So I'm cleaning up the carburetors one at a time. That way I kind of know where things go. So this is my model for the moment. This has just come out of the sandblaster, but it has the glass beads in it, so it's looking nice and shiny. I'm gonna do something now to try to make it a little bit better. Right now it kind of has a dull aluminum color to it, but I think we can polish it up a bit more than that. What we've got here, we have a bolt going through the center. It's tightened up, but it's not like crazy tight. And we're gonna spin it around and hit it with some sandpaper, going through different levels to polish it. There you go, before and after. It's not ever gonna be show quality because there's pits and stuff in it. It's especially this side. I'm not quite sure what was going on there, but it's original, and boy is it a whole lot better. So the float bowl I did a bit different. I bead blasted it and then went direct to polishing. There's some weird crazing and stuff going on, but I'm happy with how it came out. I've taken off all the hardware because lots of it is steel, and I can clean it up better when it's all disassembled. I can get inside here, but I can also protect it from corroding again. This time we're going to do it, well, you could paint it, that's one thing, but the paint's not going to last very long. It's a very harsh environment right where the carburetor lives. So what we're going to do, we're going to nickel plate it. This will add a level of corrosion protection that will last a very long time. We just have lots of little fiddly bits to, well, first clean up and then put in the solution. I'll show you how to do that. With this all disassembled, I can get everything. I haven't been able to get these two screws out. They've been mucked up before, and they seem to be stuck pretty good. So the butterfly valve seems to be seated in there rather well, and it looks like it closes well all the way around. So we're going to leave that in this time. We can get everything we need to do around it. So with that, let's grab some of these steel pieces and clean them up a bit more before we plate them. I wanted to give you a quick introduction to something that's very useful to be able to do when restoring old cars, and that's nickel electroplating. What do you need to do this? It's not as complicated as you might think. The hard part is getting a piece of nickel. You can order this off eBay. The sheet was like that big and cost like 11 bucks, I think. Next, you're going to need some vinegar, and then you're going to need an electric source. To start off with, we need to make a nickel acetate, which is very simple. I know, big words, it's scary. Take some vinegar, dump it into a container. Yeah, there you go. Next, you're going to take your nickel plate, cut it in half so you can have a piece on each side. I've done some earlier, so I'm going to skip that step for now. Then you're going to need some table salt. The table salt will help the electricity flow through the vinegar and release the nickel into the solution. So now we have our nickel in our vinegar salt solution. No, we're not making fish and chips. And from this point on, you won't want to drink it. It's poisonous. So what you need to do now is simply take some power and feed it from one side to the other. Power source doesn't have to be very much. We're going to do it using a USB plug. This was an old one that the end got the end was breaking off, so it wouldn't plug in anymore, but the power still works. I stripped one end. You just put one end on one side, one end on the other, and then it'll start to bubble. Now once it bubbles for a long time, it will start turning the solution green. And you want to leave it for a good time till it turns a nice dark green. That means there's lots of nickel in the solution. Alright, so now you have your nickel acetate prepped. It should be nice and dark and green like this. The darker the better. When you plate, the nickel flows from the plates onto the piece. So if you only have one plate in your tank, it will only imprint on one side. So you have to turn your piece all the time. I had lots of nickel, so I made 4 little pieces. So when I put my part in, the nickel attaches from all sides. To show you how to do this, I thought we would plate this key. It's the key to my Sprite, and as you can see, it used to be all bright and shiny, and now the brass is showing through. The important thing when you plate is it has to be absolutely clean, free of grease and rust and corrosion. There's some people who suggest taking the part once it's ready to go and dipping it in mercuric acid and then distilled water and then in the plating solution. That's probably a good idea, but then you're dealing with a highly corrosive acid, so you have to be very careful. We're going to skip that step this time. I have washed this with vinegar, just straight up vinegar to get any grease fingerprints off. So this goes into the tank. We're just using a bar across it. We have the positive side on the plates, positive to the plates, and the negative side, even though this is red, will go to the parts. So it's going to go through the piece of copper, through the wire, down into the tank, and to connect to the part. And you can see it's already bubbling. I don't know if you can see it. I can see it. It's bubbling. It's producing a hydrogen gas. So you don't want to do this in an enclosed space. You also don't want to do this like in your living room. Your wife probably isn't going to like that. The smell of the vinegar, it can be a bit strong at times. So to get a good solid plate on things, I've found it takes about 20 minutes of this process going on. If you're looking for just a light coat, you can do it, very short time. Let's pull this out. Already, I can see that the entire key is coated, but it's going to be, well, almost the entire key. But it's going to take longer to get a buildup that's enough to actually protect the key. So we'll let that go for a while and we'll come back. So it really only took about 5 minutes. As you can see, it's solid color all the way around. I don't need a lot of buildup on there. I was just wanting to change the color actually, because the brass was showing through. This solution will last a long time. You can put it back in the vinegar bottle and save it till next time. Just mark that, be safe, mark it so you don't think it's vinegar. But it's a really handy process to know. It's a good thing to set up in your shop. There's many uses for it. I highly recommend it. So it is very cold in the workshop today, so I have retreated into the office to do some assembly work on this first carburetor. I have it all laid out. I have my photos from, before I took it all apart. I have my pile of gaskets, which came with a very nice little exploded diagram. So hopefully that will help us to put it back in the right order. Should note a couple things. I didn't take the jet assembly out, so it should still be centered as it's supposed to. Mostly we're going to focus on the linkages and stuff to start with and move on from there. So I'm in the process of cleaning up the distributor, and I thought it'd be interesting for you if I showed you what was going on inside. Whoa, you see down in there? Down here, I don't know if I can get it to do it, but these weights, when it spins fast enough, they spring out and it advances the timing. It's in addition to the vacuum advance, which we have a new one we're going to put in. You don't normally get to see down in there, so I thought it'd be interesting to show you that. Everything looks in good order. It was very filthy. There was a big old layer of grease on it. I've cleaned everything up now. Now I'm just going to put it back together. So one of the things we need to do now that we've had it all apart and we're putting it back together is to re-gap the contacts. See, as the engine spins around, it turns this and it opens and closes that little contact right there. And that is what we need to adjust. Now we need to get it to the most open position, and then it is gapped to between, according to the service manual, between 0.014 and 0.016 inches. So that would be 0.015, right? That's what we're going to aim for. So basically it goes right in there, and then you have these two screws here that I have loosened. I fit that in there. Looks like I need to loosen a little bit more. And get it till it just feels right, and then tighten stuff up. Open it up again, just to double check that everything's feeling right. Yeah, feels good. Alright, so why don't we just put the new vacuum advance on. Why don't we test it to make sure it works? We have it lightly held in the vise with some soft jaws, just so it's steady. I have my vacuum gauge on here. Go on there. Oh, it's moving. That's a good sign. Somehow I'm losing air. Probably from around the threads. Let's try this. There we go. Very good. Working well. Next we need to put a little bit of lubrication on here, and then we can start putting it back together. So I finally got the parts I needed to move forward on the head to put it back together. Originally it had these little cup things with an oil seal in it that goes around here. And the purpose of this is the top of the valve has an arm that pushes down on it, like, and moves it up and down, and it needs lubricated. It gets lubricated with the oil, but you don't want the oil to run down here into the top of the valve, into the engine, so they put these oil seals on them. And it's called an umbrella type oil oil seal. So I guess the oil backs up in here and then flows out over the side of this of the valve guides, and doesn't go actually into the engine, which is generally a good idea. However, they don't make these. I haven't been able to find these shrouds or cups anywhere. So what I ended up doing is going to the performance section, which is the first time of websites, these catalog stores, and I found these. These are a modern style oil seal that fits right on here, and it's made so it lets just enough oil through to lubricate, but not so much oil that it burns. These will get press fit onto the valve guides themselves, so they don't move up and down or anything. There's two styles. There's one with the metal on the outside and one without. The metal on the outside is made for valves that have the dual springs. So those are the ones I got. So now we can put that back together with performance parts. Cool, now we're going to go ahead and replace the ones for all these others, just because we have them and we want to keep it consistent throughout. And performance parts. Oh, by the way, they were only like $2 each. So I noticed something funny on this head. I stick my finger in here. There's nothing in there. So what does that mean? That means there's probably no thermostat. So we're going to pull this apart and put in a new thermostat. Yummy. I'm gonna have to clean that up before this goes in. Oh, I have to remember which way it goes. Alright, well, while this is off, let's go sandblast it. So this is the thermostat for your car. The way it works is when it gets hot, it opens up. This allows the engine to reach proper operating temperature much quicker without all the water circulating through the radiator. So once this opens up, it allows the water to go through the radiator and keep everything nice and cool. To put this in, it goes this way. This is the bulb, I guess it would be called. It goes into the engine because that's the part that gets hot. There's a gasket that goes under it. You want to make sure that it's seated in there nice. If it's hanging over the edge and you put the top on it, you'll probably crack it. So just be careful that it is lined up correctly. That looks good. We have a new gasket for it. This is plumbing stuff, so we are going to use some gasket sealer to keep it all closed up. There, now that should keep the engine happy. If you want to come along on the ride as we complete this project, click the subscribe button. If you want YouTube to tell you every time there's a new video, click the alarm bell. Thanks for watching, and your support is very much appreciated.